Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD Indian News Hour, India's Voice to the World. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next hour. US President Donald Trump says won't use force in Greenland. Takes a step back over imposing tariffs on European countries after talks with NATO Secretary General. India and European Union agree to firm up new security and defense partnership. Also, a free trade agreement said to be the mother of all trade deals. 9 countries, including Jordan, the United Arab Emirates, and Indonesia, give consent to join Trump's Board of Peace. And as Khelo India Winter Games enter the 3rd day, Haryana leads the medal tally. US President Donald Trump has stepped back from threats to impose tariffs as leverage to seize Greenland, ruled out the use of force, and said a deal was in sight to end a dispute over the Danish territory. In a post on his social media site, Trump said he had agreed with the head of NATO on a framework of a future deal on Arctic security, potentially diffusing tension that had far-reaching geopolitical implications. Trump said Western Arctic allies could forge a new deal that satisfies his desire for a Golden Dome missile defense system and access to critical minerals while blocking Russia and China's ambitions in the Arctic. The announcement came hours after Trump's Davos speech, where he repeated that US needed Greenland for national and global security and said NATO members could agree to US control and will be very appreciative. Trump told reporters after emerging from a meeting with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte that the long-term deal will make everybody happy.
It's a deal that people jumped at. Really fantastic for the USA. Gets everything we wanted, including especially real national security and international security.
How so? Can you give us some details, please?
Well, the deal is going to be put out pretty soon, and we'll see. It's right now a little bit in progress, but pretty far along. It gets us everything we needed to get. It's a long-term deal. It's the ultimate long-term deal. And I think it puts everybody in a really good position, especially as it pertains to security and minerals and everything else.
Meanwhile, Rutte said that he had not discussed the key issue of Danish sovereignty over Greenland in his meeting with US President Trump. He also shared few details about the supposed framework for the deal announced by Trump after his talks with the NATO chief. US President Donald Trump has expressed confidence over the India-US bilateral trade agreement, noting that the two countries are going to have a good deal while praising Prime Minister Narendra Modi as a close friend and respected leader. Trump made the remarks following his address at the 56th Annual Summit of the World Economic Forum. Earlier, India's Commerce Secretary Rajesh Agrawal asserted that the much-anticipated first tranche of the India-US BTA is very near but stopped short of providing a timeline. The bilateral trade agreement formally proposed in February following directives from the leadership of both nations seeks to more than double bilateral trade from the current US $191 billion to US $500 billion by 2030. Only hours after his speech at the World Economic Forum in Davos, US President Trump announced a deal on Greenland. Lars Holter is with Deutsche Welle and joins me from Berlin. Hi, Lars. Can you tell us what's the latest? Lars.
Thanks for having me. Well, that was a surprise last night when Trump took to his social media site to announce that, quote, based upon a very productive meeting with the Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, we have formed a framework of a future deal with respect to Greenland and, in fact, the entire Arctic region. He said that that solution would be a great one for the United States of America and that, again, I quote, I will not be imposing the tariffs that were scheduled to go into effect on February 1st. Now, there are no details out on the deal, but much points to Denmark keeping Greenland and allowing the US to increase their military presence there. However, that had always been an option according to a 1951 deal that gave the US those rights. There are rumors that Denmark might sell the US the few acres that the actual military bases would sit on, but that is not yet confirmed.
And also, Lars, walk us through the day in Davos. What led to this apparent deal?
Yeah, so first there was this speech that already brought some relief when Trump said he wouldn't use military force to take over Greenland. However, at the time, he still insisted on the US owning Greenland officially with title, and he said it wouldn't be possible for the US to defend what they didn't outright own. Trump did say that any deal would not be about minerals and other resources, but it's all about the strategic location of the Arctic island and about defending the West against Russia and China. Other than Greenland, by the way, Trump went along about how great everything is going in the United States, how it's the hottest country in the world. He gave questionable economic data. There were also a lot of insults, Trump calling others stupid people and raging against green energy. Mind you, the environment and the threat of climate change used to be one of Davos' main topics.
Indeed. And with that many topics covered, Lars, what were the reactions to Trump's speech in Davos?
Well, reactions mostly centered on Trump taking military action against Denmark off the table. Markets immediately started to rally back from earlier losses, and they actually extended their rally later when Trump backed off on the whole Greenland issue entirely, when he announced that apparently that deal was made. No tariffs, that was certainly great news for the markets. We'll have to wait and see on what happens to some other tariffs, however. In response to Trump's speech initially, the EU shelved the trade deal that it had agreed on with the US last summer. So there is no tariff relief as planned. But under these latest developments, of course, that might change again.
All right, Lars, we leave it there. Thank you so much. And joining us now on the broadcast is Prabhu Dayal. He's former senior diplomat, joining us on DDI News Hour. Sir, very warm welcome to DD India News Hour. Okay, so one thing is clear. Trump has stepped back when it comes to imposing tariffs on some European nations over Greenland row. And he also said that he'll not use force to take it. But another thing is also clear, that he wants Greenland at any cost. So with the current situation, sir, how do you see the future of NATO?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on your show. I think the future of NATO will stay intact.
Okay.
Firstly, you know, NATO will outlive Trump. Of course, there were serious dangers to NATO because of Trump's statements regarding the use of force to acquire Greenland.
Right.
He had all through in 2025 until now, till yesterday, he had not ruled out using force. And he had consistently said that he would take even military action to acquire Greenland. And naturally, this was raising tension within NATO. Now, there were very clear indications that within the Trump administration, senior aides opposed the military option for acquiring Greenland. This is because they attach importance to NATO, and they knew that any military action, such as what Trump had claimed he would take, that military action would completely destroy NATO. And key insiders within Trump's team did not want to do anything that would cause harm to NATO. Secondly, you know, even the people in Congress were pretty united in opposing this whole idea of using force in Greenland. So in other words, the Congress did not want that the Trump administration should do anything which would cause the end of NATO. They wanted to preserve NATO. Let me mention that a very important Republican is the Speaker of the House of Representatives, whose name is Mike Johnson. He's a very senior and important Republican. And he had consistently said that a scenario where force would be used should not be under consideration by the Trump administration, as it would not be under consideration by Congress. In other words, he ruled out that Congress would approve use of force, although he's a Republican Party member. Now, then again, there is no doubt that the European members of NATO showed that they were prepared to stand up to any sort of bullying. And that also helped to keep NATO intact, because if they had cowed down, then perhaps the future of NATO could have come undone.
Okay.
But for all these reasons and many more, I think NATO stays intact.
Okay. So, sir, I want to ask you that, do you still see a trade war happening? And if you see it happening, what are the options with the European Union against the United States?
I think, Trump made it sort of clear that he doesn't want to have a trade war. He said he would not be imposing the tariffs because, as he said towards the end of his meeting, that he has had a deal worked out with Mark Rutte, the NATO Secretary General, and that as a result, the imposition of tariffs is not necessary. For this reason, I think Europe is breathing a sigh of relief. Even the American markets are doing so. And the threats to economic stability, which were being caused on account of Trump's original remarks, seem to have been ruled out now.
Okay, so you don't see any trade war happening. Just a while back, you were talking about United States putting their military force in Greenland, if required. But do they really require it? I mean, I have a question that we all know about the Cold War treaty that is there between the United States and Greenland. And according to that treaty, America can put as many personnel as they want inside Greenland, which currently stands at somewhere about 150. Do they really need to use the force to take Greenland, if at all?
Well, the majority of American leaders, by far, think that this whole idea of having to use force against Greenland was bizarre. In fact, as soon as Trump said that he would be using force, there were all kinds of remarks made by important analysts, and some even suggested that they thought that Trump was not mentally stable. So the point is this.
That's a big statement, sir.
What Trump was saying about Greenland being important for American security is undeniable. Because if you look at the map of the world, Greenland is just adjacent to America. The coast of Greenland runs alongside the coast of Canada. And so therefore, for the security of the North American continent, it's important. But as you pointed out, the Americans should be exploring other ways. They have one base. They can have many more. And I'm sure that during the talks which were held yesterday with Mark Rutte, this aspect was discussed, that America can use Greenland to strengthen its military presence, to increase its bases, and to do whatever it considers necessary to secure America and also to secure European interests. And therefore, what the message that went across from the European side is that while they have no opposition to you letting the United States use Greenland for strategic purposes, yet the issue which they are opposed to is America trying to acquire sovereignty over Greenland. But this is what Trump had been wanting. He had said, I want to buy Greenland, and if I'm not able to, then I don't rule out the use of force. So the issue of sovereignty is what was decisive, not the use of Greenland for strategic interests. And therefore, the Americans can take resort to setting up more bases. You know, the Americans have bases all over the world.
You're right.
So if Greenland is next to them, they can increase the number.
And they already have a base there. They already have a base there, Pacific.
But that is, if they feel that more bases are needed, this is what the NATO secretary
You're right.
By all means, increase the number of bases. but give up this whole idea of using force to acquire.
You're absolutely right, and I agree with you. Because of the location of Greenland, it's very, very important, and the very fact that, you know, if United States will take over Greenland, they will be adding somewhere about 836,000 square miles of the area, which is perhaps bigger than the Louisiana Purchase, and it's perhaps bigger than Alaska as well. And also, because it has you know, untapped reserves of critical minerals, and something which we all use in mobile phones and electronics and satellites, you know, in weapons as well. And also in the Arctic regions, there are about 13% of oil reserves and 30% of undiscovered gas as well, and much of it is near Greenland. So that is why perhaps you know, Trump really want Greenland at any cost. He also urged world leaders to allow the US to take control of Greenland from Denmark, and said, you can say yes and we will be very appreciative, or you can say no and we will remember. What do you make of this statement? We will remember.
Well, if it is just another way of threatening. It is saying, hum yaad rakhenge, you know, that kind of thing. But I don't think that after he said that he rules out the use of force, this statement, we will remember, needs to be taken that seriously. But you were absolutely right. Trump has great interest in the critical minerals and oil reserves of Greenland.
And the sea routes as well, sir.
He's a businessman.
And
Trump is a businessman.
Yeah, definitely,
he keeps
sir.
The profit motive always in mind.
Right. And the sea routes as well.
And in Venezuela, he has openly said that he wants the oil reserves. The oil reserves should be for America.
Yeah.
And for Greenland also, he has deep economic interests, which are linked to the reserves of not just Greenland, but also of the Arctic region. So he has made no secret of his interest in Greenland. He says he wants the resources. But then what is the way out, you know? It doesn't mean that he has to acquire the whole of Greenland. He can work alongside Denmark. And this is, I think, what the NATO Secretary General was trying to work out with him. A deal where the Americans work to tap the resources of Greenland, but share the profits with Denmark. You know, Denmark doesn't have the resources or the wherewithal to tap these resources. So they can work for something which is mutually beneficial. And that is where diplomacy comes in. Trump's team comprises some very good diplomats. In fact, yesterday, Marco Rubio was openly praised by Trump in his Davos speech. So they can work out some sort of an arrangement with the Danes that the natural resources of Greenland should be tapped and should be for the benefit of America, as also for the benefit of Denmark, rather than have a hostile situation where the two sides resort to arms and then it doesn't work to the advantage of either. So I think what the NATO Secretary General tried to emphasize to Trump was that let's have a win-win situation where their peace is not disturbed, but the arrangements work out to our mutual benefit.
You're right. Okay. Very quickly, sir, I want to ask you that do you also agree that the geo-economic relationship between countries will be impacted if United States take over Greenland?
Well, first of all, I don't think there is any likelihood of the American establishment itself pushing for a policy that involves taking over Greenland. So it's a hypothetical question. Neither have the Europeans shown any indication that they would be willing in any case to give up sovereignty and sovereign rights over Greenland. So the whole idea of the Americans acquiring Greenland is a non-starter. But the natural resources of Greenland, as I said, are something, these resources are important. And a policy could be adopted where things could work to mutual advantage between the United States administration and the Europeans. But for the moment, I think the bright side of things is that any escalation of the military aspect of the situation seems to be ruled out. You know, the Europeans had sent some small contingents to Greenland, and that was to show that they were standing alongside Denmark. So there was some sort of a minor escalation with Trump's statements and European resistance. But, and this is a fundamental but, there is an important de-escalation now. And let's see what the path for the future is. I hope it builds on cooperation rather than confrontation.
Only the time will tell that, sir. Thank you so much, Bhatt, for joining in on DD News. Thank you so much once again. Meanwhile, markets have reached quite well to Greenland development. Relief has lifted Wall Street, Asia stocks and European futures as a deal was in sight. European futures were 1.2% higher in the afternoon, while on Wall Street, the S&P 500 had notched a 1.16% rise, its largest in 2 months. Those stocks have recovered only part of the week's losses, but gold is about $100 an ounce under a record high and up 11% this year, while silver also off recent record peaks is up 30%. While the US dollar held on to overnight gains against major peers, the Australian dollar rose after a stronger than expected jobs report boosted expectations of a possible rate hike as soon as next month. India's Railway and I&B and Electronics and Information Technology Minister Ashwini Vaishnav has once again reiterated that India is being seen today as a trusted value chain partner all over the world. Vaishnav exuded confidence that the way meetings and discussions took place with investors in Davos, people were very clearly saying that India is a bright spot today. He was speaking on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum in Davos.
भारत को आज सारी दुनिया में एक ट्रस्टेड वैल्यू चेन पार्टनर की तरह देखा जा रहा है। इस टर्बुलेंट बहुत मुश्किल एनवायरनमेंट में सारे विश्व में जहां पर अनसर्टेनिटी है, वैसे में भारत को एक बहुत ही स्टेबल, अच्छी डेमोक्रेसी, वाइब्रेंट डेमोक्रेसी और एक सस्टेन्ड वे में ग्रोथ वाली इकोनॉमी के तरीके से देखा जा रहा है। जिस तरीके से यहां पर इन्वेस्टर्स से मुलाकातें हुई, बातें हुई, हर पैनल में, हर एक जगह बहुत क्लियरली लोग बोल रहे हैं कि भारत आज एक ब्राइट स्पॉट है पूरी दुनिया में। जहां पर टर्बुलेंस है, वहां पे भारत एक बहुत स्टेबल और ग्रोइंग इकोनॉमी है और भारत को ट्रस्ट की तरह से देखा जा रहा है।
IMB Minister also held engagements with Teochew Hyun, Temasek chairman, who expressed his interest in expanding their presence in India and noted that Singapore remains committed to invest in India's physical and digital infrastructure and deep tech startups. Posting on micro-blogging site X, Indian minister said that he held discussions with leading minds in AI, robotics and cybersecurity, reflect India's rise as a trusted value chain partner. Union Minister Prahlad Joshi held interaction with Catherine McGregor, Chief Executive Officer of NG Group, on the sidelines of World Economic Forum in Davos. Leaders encouraged deeper and sustained investments in India's fast-expanding clean energy ecosystem. Minister said that India offers one of the most attractive destinations globally for long-term growth and strong returns. The minister also held discussions with Jose Manuel, Chairman and CEO of Aconia, Spain, on expanding renewable energy and its sustainable infrastructure opportunities in India. Discussions also covered green hydrogen and co-development under Make in India. Moving on to Russia-Ukraine peace talks, where US envoy Steve Witkoff seems optimist. He said a lot of progress had been made in talks and that negotiations were down to one last issue. On the sidelines of World Economic Summit at Davos, Witkoff said the pair would not stay in the Russian capital overnight and would fly straight to Abu Dhabi, where talks would continue in military-to-military working groups. President Donald Trump's envoy, who will travel to Moscow later on Thursday with the US leader's son-in-law Jared Kushner. The Kremlin also confirmed that President Vladimir Putin would meet with Witkoff during the visit. The United States has held talks with Russia and separately with Kiev and European leaders on various different drafts of a plan for ending the conflict in Ukraine, but no deal has yet been reached despite Trump's repeated promises to clinch one. Meanwhile, Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky are due to meet in Davos on Thursday. 9 countries across the West Asia and Asia have announced plans to join United States President Donald Trump's Board of Peace in Gaza. The foreign ministers of the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, Egypt, Jordan, Indonesia, Turkey and Pakistan said they would be joining the Trump-led board in a joint statement. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also accepted President Trump's invitation to join the board. while Russian President Vladimir Putin said that before a decision is made on whether to accept the invitation, Russia could transfer $1 billion from frozen Russian assets under the previous US administration to the Board of Peace.
Even before we decide on the issue of participation in the composition and work of Board of Peace, we could send $1 billion from Russian assets frozen under the previous US administration to Board of Peace. Incidentally, the remaining funds from our frozen assets in the US could be used to rebuild territories damaged by the fighting after a peace treaty is concluded between Russia and Ukraine. We are also discussing this possibility with representatives of the US administration.
After Australia, the UK also has backed a move to ban social media for teens under 16. Britain's upper house of parliament voted on Wednesday in favour of banning under 16s from using social media. By 261 votes to 150, opposition peers voted to support a ban through an amendment to the government's schools bill. Under the amendment, the government would get a year to decide which platforms should be unavailable to the under 16s, with companies forced to put in place highly effective age checks to police access. Calls have risen across the opposition and within the governing Labour Party for the UK to follow Australia, where under 16s have been barred from social media applications since December 10. A YouGov poll in December found 74% of Britons supported a ban. The Online Safety Act requires secure age verification for harmful content. Campaigning for Bangladesh's 13th Jatiya Sangsad election formally begins today following the allocation of election symbols and confirmation of final candidates. Nearly 2,000 candidates are contesting the election for 300 parliamentary seats. Voting along with a nationwide referendum will be held on February 12. The Bangladesh Nationalist Party is set to launch its official campaign from Sylhet, with party chairman Tariq Rahman scheduled to join rallies in 7 districts on the first day. Jamaat-e-Islami Amir Shafiqur Rahman will also begin his campaign on Thursday in the Dhaka. The start of campaigning comes amid heightened scrutiny of the electoral environment as major parties step up outreach while voicing concerns over fairness in the run-up to polling day. With Bangladesh heading into a general election, serious questions are being raised about the country's security preparedness after the army chief revealed that more than 1/3 of weapons looted during last year's unrest are still unaccounted for, heightening fears of political violence and attacks on minorities. Bangladesh Army Chief General Waqar-uz-Zaman said on Wednesday that 3,619 weapons were looted from police stations across the country during the 2024 mass uprising. About 62.4% of the weapons have been recovered so far, leaving 37.6% still in circulation ahead of the February 12 general election and a simultaneous referendum. According to figures shared by Chief Advisor's press wing, 4,56,418 rounds of ammunition were looted during the unrest, but security forces have managed to recover roughly 52%. General Waqar-uz-Zaman made the disclosures at a high-level meeting on law and order chaired by Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus. The meeting was attended by senior advisors, the National Security Advisor and the chiefs of the Navy and Air Force. Opposition figures and civil society groups have warned that unrecovered weapons could be used to intimidate voters, disrupt polling or target vulnerable communities, particularly religious and ethnic minorities who have historically faced violence during periods of political instability. In London, British Hindus and Bangladeshi diaspora groups assembled at Parliament Square on Wednesday to protest against the persecution of minorities in Bangladesh. The protesters urged the UK government to ensure the interim government led by Muhammad Yunus in Bangladesh protects against such incidents of persecution. The mass demonstration brought together a diverse set of organizations, including the Bengali Hindu Adarsh Sangh UK, Insight UK and Hindu Council UK. News coming in from Australia now. 3 people have been killed in a shooting in the Australian state of New South Wales, police said on Thursday. Police said an operation was currently underway in the town of Lake Cargillego, west of Sydney, and urged residents to stay indoors. Emergency services were called to the scene following reports of a shooting in the late afternoon. In fact, police said the 2 women and 1 man have died and another man has been taken to hospital in a serious but stable condition. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Milan hosts Indian exhibition on 21st Century Life.
Welcome to Delhi. One of India's newest states. One of India's oldest lands.
You're watching DD Indian News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and a quick recap of the headlines. US President Donald Trump says won't use force in Greenland, takes a step back over imposing tariffs on European countries after talks with NATO Secretary General. India and European Union agree to firm up new security and defense partnership, also a free trade agreement said to be the mother of all trade deals. 9 countries, including Jordan, the United Arab Emirates and Indonesia, gave consent to join Trump's Board of Peace for Gaza. India and the European Union have agreed to sign a new security and defense partnership. The announcement was made by EU's Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas ahead of the 60th EU-India summit scheduled to take place in New Delhi on Tuesday. Kallas asserted that Europe is ready to deliver on a powerful new agenda with India, part of which includes expanding cooperation in areas such as maritime security, counter-terrorism and cyber defense, and signing of India-EU Free Trade Agreement too.
We aim to conclude negotiations on the EU-India Free Trade Agreement. This deal will open markets, remove barriers and strengthen critical supply chains in clean technologies, pharmaceuticals and semiconductors. Second, today we agreed to move forward with the signature of a new EU-India security and defence partnership in areas like maritime security, cybersecurity and countering counter-terrorism. We will also launch negotiations on a security of information agreement. In a more dangerous world, we will both gain from working closer together. We also intend to conclude a memorandum of understanding on comprehensive framework on cooperation on mobility. This will facilitate movement for seasonal workers, students, researchers and highly skilled professionals while promoting research and innovation.
Kallas said the two major democracies must cooperate more, especially in the changing, unprecedented world order, stressing that India, EU have renewed political momentum and with clear sense of purpose.
The EU and India are moving closer together at the time when the rules-based international order is under unprecedented pressure through wars, coercion and economic fragmentation. Two major democracies cannot afford to hesitate. We must become more ambitious partners.
Kallas also said that Europe and India could help anchor stability in the Indo-Pacific.
In the Indo-Pacific and beyond, Europe and India can help anchor stability by defending open sea lanes, strengthening maritime domain awareness, and resisting coercion in all of its forms. Honourable members, this summit matters for what it sets in motion, a more ambitious, more operational EU-India partnership. We have an opportunity to turn political momentum into progress for our citizens, for our companies, our economies, and also upholding rules-based order on which our security and prosperity depend.
European Council President Antonio Costa and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen will attend India's Republic Day celebrations as chief guests on January 26, with the India-EU summit scheduled for the following day. And also joining us on the broadcast on the story is Dr. Charan Singh, eminent economist and CEO IGRO. Sir, a very warm welcome to DD India News Hour. Positive signs from both India and EU when it comes to trade deal. How do you see this? Do you see this, in fact, as a mother of all trade deals?
Absolutely, absolutely. This is such a perfect thing in a global, uncertain world.
Right,
And this is so important because India's growth trajectory is positive.
right.
Whereas if you look at the growth trajectory of EU,
Hmm.
that's not very positive. It's on the decline.
Yeah.
The global uncertainty has brought India to the forefront,
Hmm.
given that India's economic performance since COVID has been solid gold. We are the fastest growing economy. We have a very rich demographic dividend.
Right.
We are pioneers in AI, I can say that. You know that on computers and IT related, we were doing very good. And we have not lost an opportunity because on AI, we are doing a great work. Stanford University has sort of also accepted that we are amongst the three major countries in the world leading the AI revolution. And the IT minister at Davos very clearly mentioned that we are operating on different layers of AI. And each of the layers we are investing. The models that we are building are small models, not very expensive, but they are going to be leading the AI revolution. So therefore, we have positioned ourselves firstly on growth performance and secondly on the futuristic developments. We have positioned ourselves that EU thinks it's important to sign a deal with us. It's a very good, very happy situation.
Indeed. Uh, you were also saying this, and I want to ask you, how do you see this coming at a time when the world is witnessing various conflicts, and especially considering the situation between the United States and the EU?
So I must share this. The Trump tariffs, which have happened in such a reckless manner,
Hmm.
or it has broken all the rule-based international economic order. Now that has really plunged the world. Initially, of course, it was the tariffs, but over a period of time, the aggressiveness has increased. And recently, what has happened in the last month, 1 month, and the plans for the future are so dangerous that the world is now looking forward to multi alignments and different alignments. In that sense, I think India and EU are setting up a very positive sign that we can explore different possibilities of ensuring global growth continues. Now, this agreement with the EU is bringing on the forefront started in 2007.
Right,
And it is the 16th EU India summit, which is taking place in
right.
January towards the end. Over a period of time, we have been negotiating, discussing, and strengthening it. But of late, after I think many years, but after 2021, when it was resumed, now, in the last 1 year, it has really picked up momentum. Our own minister going to Brussels, their people coming over to India in the last 2 months, has only established that in such globally uncertain period, it's very, very important to find new alignments, to look for like-minded people. As rightly said, two democratic institutions, two democratic continents, countries, we need to think alike and not hesitate to take steps forward. I think the Indo-Pacific stability that this agreement will bring, also the provisions that they are doing. One is the FTA trade agreement, which has taken a very long time, but now they are thinking in terms of a strategic cooperation, and they're also thinking in terms of a defense partnership.
How crucial would that be, sir?
Yeah, I think very, very crucial. So look at the strategic thing where our professional students, scientists, scholars will have to exchange. By the way, I must mention that Europe on innovation index is doing very well. Sweden, Finland on innovation index
You're
are
right.
very high.
You're right.
And Germany. And India, of course, to that extent has been lacking. But our scholars, scientists, researchers will get opportunity to go and work in those countries. And the mind that we already have, we'll have better opportunities. I think that's fantastic. And on defense, I think it is high time we had worked on defense, counter to terrorism, and all these agreements are putting all that together. I think these are very positive signs in a very gloomy world.
You're right, sir. You talked about the talks started in the year 2017. According to your assessment, what took it so long? to get this deal finalized?
So actually, one thing is there, most of these deals do take some time. It's not that it's the first, because these deals are very comprehensive and
Right.
various aspects of trade, services have to be taken into account. There are sensitive areas like agriculture that have to be taken into account. From 2007 to 2013, there was some developments taking place, and that then it went into cold storage. And from 2013 to 2021, there was hardly any development on it. But from 2021 onwards, again, we started opening, and I think it's a new government, new
You're
regime
right.
that we had in our country, which wanted to really look at various angles of trade and ensure that India grows. Also, please remember that there has been a strategic shift in the thinking of the government from 2014 onwards.
Absolutely.
The stability that you see right now
There's no
is a
doubt about
result
that.
of that.
Absolutely.
And that is why they opened up. Once they stabilized, they opened up in 2021 and they started. And I'm so happy, while most of us knew that America-India trades are happening, but India had also been building up relations with multi-nations, multi-continents. And I think that's the right way to diversify for a young demographic country, a country which is growing fast, which has lots of aspirations. Please also remember that Europe is part of the same land mass that we are in. So moving into Europe is easier. Also, we have had very long-term historical traditions and relations with Europe, be it Italy, be it France, be it Germany, on the same landmass, and of course Britain. So therefore, and Britain was part of the EU for a very long time, it's just come out of it. Now, therefore, our relationship are historical. And that is where I think from 2021, the current government started making efforts in building relationship. It is in the last 2 years, especially in the last 1 year, that we had to strengthen, start exploring, start identifying. One of the reasons that I would ascribe that why this relationship became stronger in the recent years is because India's growth trajectory improved,
Right.
India's vision, India's young demographic and aspirations increased, and therefore looking for markets around India also increased. And that is where I think the vision of the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister also
Right.
plays a role,
Right.
that where do we now accommodate our young demographic Indians? And that's why the effort to open up the markets, open up the services,
You're
and
absolutely
look
right.
at our exports, the PLI scheme started showing results,
Yeah.
and our exports had to be also accommodated.
Yeah, definitely. So we can say it's a win-win situation for both EU and India. But thank you so much, sir, for joining in on DD India News. India's permanent representative to the United Nations, Harish Parvatneni, delivered the G4 statement on behalf of India, Brazil, Germany and Japan at the Intergovernmental Negotiations meeting on UN Security Council reforms, highlighting the urgent need for reforms. He said that the UN does not have the luxury of time to engage in cycles of meetings that are devoid of outcomes. He stressed the importance of collectively making every moment count.
The world is going through unprecedented times. Challenges of diverse nature are emerging on an almost everyday basis. The universal multilateral organization, the United Nations, is no exception either. The need for reforming the UN Security Council is getting more pronounced by the day. Further delays in implementing timely reforms would result in more human suffering and misery. The ongoing conflicts come at a heavy cost. Countless innocent lives are lost on a daily basis. We do not have the luxury of time to engage in cycles of meetings that are devoid of outcomes. We must collectively make every moment count.
Union Home Minister Amit Shah on Thursday attends Centenary Year Celebration 2026 on the occasion of the birth centenary of Mata Bhagwati Devi Sharma and Centenary Year of Akhand Deep in Uttarakhand's Haridwar. The Home Minister offered prayers at the Akhand Jyoti and interact with members of the Gayatri Parivar. Home Minister Amit Shah is currently on a 2-day visit to Uttarakhand. The success of Operation Sindoor will echo loud and hard at the Kartavya Path on this Republic Day. 29 aircrafts from all the 3 services would fly in seamless integration. There would be a special Operation Sindoor formation by the Indian Air Force. Vishal Baristo finds out more.
When we talk about the seamless integration, this is for the first time that the Republic Day would have the three forces together. How important it would be?
We will have aircraft from all the three services. If I give you the breakdown, the Army will be flying their ALH, their Apache, LCH aircraft, and from the Navy side, we will have P-8I. And from the Air Force, you will witness Mi-17 helicopter, ALH helicopter. From our transport side, we will have C-130, C-295, and fighters, we will have Rafale, MiG-29, Su-30 MKI, and Jaguar aircraft.
We're talking about Indian Air Force and the success of Operation Sindoor, which would also be the highlight of this show. Tell us about the Sindoor formation.
This time, Sindoor will be a single composite powerful formation, which we will showcase this time. It will be dedicated towards the success of the Operation Sindoor. So in this formation, we will have 2 Rafale aircraft flying along with 2 MiG-29s, 2 Su-30 MKI, and a single Jaguar aircraft, making it a total 7 aircraft formation, which will be flying past Abhim the Dias in a 7 aircraft spearhead formation.
What are the other formations that the Indian Air Force would be flying?
If I talk about, there will be total of 8 formations, and which will comprise of total of 29 aircraft. In the block 1, which is along with the parade, we will have 4 formations. They will be Dhwaj formation, followed by Prahar formation, Dhruv formation. These 3 formations are from the comprise of helicopters, and after that we will have our Sindoor formation along with the IAF contingent. And in the block 2, that will be after the parade, we will have again 4 formations. That block 2 will start with the Arjun formation, followed by Varuna formation, which will have P-8I and 2 Su-30 MKI, and followed by a single powerful formation of 6 Rafale aircraft, Vajrang formation, and in the end you will see a single Rafale doing a maneuver of vertical chirally above the Kartavya Path, and that will be a single Rafale aircraft, call sign Vijay.
Well, absolutely, call sign Vijay, and Vijay is what we were hoping and we achieved during Operation Sindoor. With cameraman Kalra in Delhi, this is Vishal Baristo for DD India.
In Milan, Italy, an exhibition featuring only Indian artists focuses on the relationship between humans and their environment in 21st century, sparking the curiosity of a city greatly interested in new international artistic trends. Visiting the exhibition for us is Davide Martello, our correspondent from Milan.
We are in Milan at PAC, the Pavilion of Contemporary Art. Here, as you can see, the museum is hosting an exhibition entirely focused on Indian artists. The exhibition opened on November 2025 and it's called India, of Glimmers and Getaways. Let's hear the motivation of the title by one of the curators.
The idea that the getaway and the glimmer are something that is continuously boiling in a landscape. So from there, with that essay we shared with Firan, and we started discussing a possibility of thinking through that problematic in the way we will see landscapes and people and groups of people and artistic practice around us. And then it emerged slowly that the exhibition could be called Of Glimmer and Getaways. The reason being that it was allowing us to move between various kinds of associated forms of living and singularities, the moments of singularities that could rethink life, give us a new imagination of where we are to go.
In the museum, it's possible to find many works by Indian artists, such as these by Ranjita Kumari, a portrait of overlapping donkeys, symbolizing the histories of those who have carried the weight of others' progress. Or these by Pinak Banik, a reflection on the connections between Bengal and Italy through the 20th century.
So the question of how this exhibition of Glimmers and Getaways moves beyond the geographical boundaries of India is absolutely central to the way we think and the way the artists think through this exhibition. They are not confined by the geopolitical borders of a particular nation state. They happen to come from many different parts of India. We ask them very simple questions. What are the forms of togetherness, association, feelings, passions, thinking that they feel are urgent for them at the moment? I think the show speaks to a particular mood or a set of moods in a particular time that is right now in the end of the first quarter of the 21st century. In that sense, it is speaking to the planet, to other species, to other forms of thinking, other forms of life.
Voices of artists from foreign countries can raise great attention here in Milan, as is the case for India, here at the PAC. This is Davide Martello reporting from Milan.
You're watching DD India News. Our time now for some sports news. And Khelo India Winter Games enters the third day in the sub-zero conditions of Leh. Athletes are competing in group matches of ice hockey, while short track and long track speed skating has begun. Earlier on Wednesday, the first gold medals of the games were decided, all in figure skating. Haryana bagged 2 gold medals, while Uttarakhand and Kerala won 1 each. Haryana currently tops the medal standings with 5 medals overall, including 1 silver and 2 bronze. Figure skating made its debut in the Ladakh leg of the games, an Olympic sport known for its grace and poise. 20 figure skaters from 5 states and 2 union territories competed across 2 categories. All right, and for more on this, Abhishek Prasad joins us live from Leh. Hi, Abhishek. It's the third day. First, tell us about the temperature there at Leh. What's the temperature?
Hello, Siddharth. You can see it's very chilling at the moment.
Yeah, it is.
The current temperature is close to -5, but it feels like it's more colder than the temperature.
And I hope, Abhishek, you're taking care of yourself.
Yes, I'm definitely taking care of myself. The body is covered, and the oxygen level is also quite low here, so keeping myself hydrated. And the athletes has also showed up despite these challenging conditions here.
Definitely hats off to these athletes, who are performing under these chilly conditions. Abhishek, it's the third day of Khelo India Winter Games. Tell us what's your tracking from ground zero.
Siddharth, what I can see from here is the government, along with the Sports Ministry and Sports Authority of India, is pushing very hard to create an atmosphere, to create an ecosystem where these athletes who choose winter sports as their preferred choice can thrive, can have more opportunities on the ground.
Right.
The Union Territory of Ladakh, along with Sai, they are preparing, they are working late at night to prepare the ice rinks every day. And from the logistics department to the transportation, the medical facilities, everything has been taken care of. There are a team of doctors who are monitoring the athletes regularly so that they are fit and can cope up in these challenging conditions. The oxygen level is low, there is dry air in the atmosphere, so it's quite challenging, but the government and the Sports Ministry is doing really well to create an atmosphere where we can, in future can look up to Winter Olympics or Asian Winter Games.
Definitely. You take care of yourself, Abhishek, and we'll keep taking more updates from you. Thank you so much. We leave it there as of now. January 22nd, 2024 marked a historic moment as Lord Ram was consecrated at the Grand Ram Temple in Ayodhya, Uttar Pradesh. Prime Minister Narendra Modi led the Pran Pratishtha ceremony witnessed by millions across the country. The event symbolized a defining chapter in India's cultural and spiritual journey.
आज हमारे राम आ गए। सदियों की प्रतीक्षा के बाद हमारे राम आ गए।
January 22nd, 2024 marks a defining moment in the cultural continuum of Sanatan Dharma. Celebrations echoed across the country, and Ayodhya was immersed in devotion, illuminated by faith and fervor. This was the moment for which millions of Indians had been waiting for centuries. It was a day of transition for Sanatan culture, and it was a day of the consecration of Lord Ram Lalla in the grand, divine and magnificent temple built at the birthplace of Lord Sri Ram. After years of struggle and unwavering commitment, the moment arrived on 22nd of January 2024. It was not merely a date, it was the dawn of a new era.
22 जनवरी 2024 का ये सूरज एक अद्भुत आभा लेकर आया है। 22 जनवरी 2024 ये कैलेंडर पर लिखी एक तारीख नहीं, ये एक नए काल चक्र का उद्गम है। आज हमें सदियों के उस धैर्य की धरोहर मिली है। आज हमें श्री राम का मंदिर मिला।
All eyes were on the Grand Ram Temple, awaiting the first glimpse of Sri Ram Lala's idol. Dressed in traditional attire, barefoot, carrying the sacred red folded cloth along with a silver chatar, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi walked towards the sanctum sanctorum of the temple, Ayodhya stood witness to a moment etched in faith and history. A wave of emotions swept across the nation. Tears of joy rolled down the cheeks of millions who had waited for this sacred moment since years. The divine atmosphere, energy, and the enthusiasm gripped Ayodhya as people gathered to witness the auspicious consecration ceremony of Sri Ram Lala.
आज अयोध्या में केवल श्री राम के विग्रह रूप की प्राण प्रतिष्ठा नहीं हुई है, ये श्री राम के रूप में साक्षात भारतीय संस्कृति के प्रति अटूट विश्वास की भी प्राण प्रतिष्ठा है। ये साक्षात मानवीय मूल्यों और सर्वोच्च आदर्शों की भी प्राण प्रतिष्ठा है। ये राम के रूप में राष्ट्र चेतना का मंदिर है।
This day holds a special place in the history of Bharat. It marked the nation's cultural renaissance, a moment when the country restored its pride, glory, and witnessed a revival of its cultural, religious, and spiritual spirit. The joy, excitement, and sheer enthusiasm of the people will pave the way for the rise of a new Bharat. For Ram belongs to all. Ram is everywhere, and Ram resides within each of us. After the construction of Ram Temple, the consecration, and now the hoisting of Dharma Dhwaj, Ayodhya is shining on the global stage. Today, people from all over the world are making their way to the sacred land of Ayodhya, immersed in devotion to catch a glimpse of Ram Lala and witness the grandeur of the Ram Temple. From Hanuman Gari Temple to the banks of Saryu, a wave of positive energy and excitement tells the story of transformation and the rise of a new and self-reliant Bharat.
January 22nd, 2024 will be remembered as a historic turning point for Bharat. Its rich cultural legacy, which continues to thrive every day. Today, Ayodhya stands as a symbol of faith and perseverance. And this moment will go down to generations. Today, people from all over the world come to Ayodhya to witness the grandeur of Ram Mandir and get a glimpse of Ram Lala. With camera person Mukesh Kumar, this is Siddharth Bharadwaj reporting for DD India in New Delhi. That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.